as you get into this? Does this feel more and more natural? Getting back into the head coach swing of things?
I mean, I'll be real honest. We finished up practice, and I completely forgot that I had to come in here and do interviews. So, you know, it's we're getting in more of a routine. I think the players are getting in more of a routine. I think the coaches are as well. And, you know, that's what our focus is. I mean, every day we got to go attack. We got to stack good days on. I think we did that again this week. Tuesday was a good workout. Today was an even better workout. Got to have it again tomorrow. But that's where our mindset's got to be. It's got to stay locked into the process of us getting better each time we step out.
I asked you yesterday about Ashford, Claiborne, their running back seems to be dynamic. You guys did a good job with Smothers last week. Is there going to be the same type of mentality against Claiborne this week?
Well, it's got to be. I mean, he's very, very talented, in and out of cuts, has had a lot of explosive runs up to this point. And so we've got to do a good job of not only getting a lot of hats to the ball, but making sure that we're getting him on the ground. And when you're in those situations where, hey, it's a one-on-one type tackle, you got to do a great job of really breaking down, bringing hips, and getting him on the ground. But we can't let him get started. We got to have a really good start to that, and we got to get a lot of hats to it.
What has changed so dramatically with the rush defense the last couple of weeks, where not a lot of resistance in the Vandy ODU games, then offered in negative yards, shut down the ACC's leading rusher last week?
You know, I really think these guys, they're playing relentlessly. You know, if you look at our defensive front, it's one of the strengths of our football team. Those guys take a lot of pride in that part of it. I think JC and Sam and our defensive staff have done a good job from a game plan standpoint of giving those guys some opportunities to really make plays and play to their strengths. And those guys are playing at a new level, I think, right now. And they got to continue that this week with a really talented team coming in.
I know you have an injury report, or availability report later this week. We haven't seen Keelan Adams, Chance Wiggins at all this season. Are they closer to getting back on the field at this point?
You know, I think Brody's getting closer. He did some good things this week. We'll see kind of where that trend continues to go. Wiggins is probably a little bit further off.
How good do you feel about the offensive line now that Garrett got back? Gannon played a couple snaps, I believe, against NC State. Are you seeing them trending in the right direction?
Yeah, I think we're trending in the right direction. Obviously, we're not completely healthy yet, but that being said, those guys are doing everything they can to get themselves on the field and stay on the field. It was good to have some of those guys back last week. Obviously, it made a difference. But those guys are so vitally important. Just like you're talking about the D-line, the offensive line is so vitally important to what you want to do, and you got to be able to move that line of scrimmage in the direction you need it to go.
Have you had a lot of running backs with the body type of Terry Stewart? Is he a unique back in that sense?
Yeah, he's a unique back in that way. I mean, he provides a lot of power. He's got great quickness. He's hard to tackle. He's got great contact balance. And so that's what makes him unique. And he plays to his strengths, and he did a fantastic job last week. Got to have another type of performance again this week.
Can you remind you of any kind of backs you've had in the past with the way he runs?
You know, some guys have that type of running style, but again, he's unique with just his size and stature and the way he carries it. And, you know, he's got really good vision and understands some things. Did a nice job last week of setting up some blocks. And it was good to see him get out in the open and really have an explosive type run like that. He had opportunities before, really close, made a guy miss out in space. Those are the things you want to see him continue to do.
We've talked about reliability so much with John Love. Is there a yard line you get to where you, as a coordinator, now an interim coach, feel comfortable with him in field goal range?
You know, they go out every week in pregame, you know, depending upon the weather and the wind and the variables that kind of go into that. And then, you know, Stu comes back and says, hey, this is where we're at today, and that's where we kind of lay it. And some days it's 5 more yards, give or take either direction, depending upon what's going on. But most of the time he's pretty consistent.
When you get Terry on back at full speed, what does that do to the running back rotation? You can add them with Hawk and Freddie.
You know, I think we have a really talented running back room, and we've got a lot of backs that bring different things to the table. And so, you know, like we've said from the start, It's kind of running back by rotation, and whoever has the hot hand is going to get more touches. Obviously, last week, Terrion and Hawk kind of carried the majority of the load, but if you look at the week before, PJ had an incredible game, and so those guys are doing a good job of understanding the process. I think it keeps them all healthier, keeps them all involved, but you got to understand there's going to be times where, hey, the game's going to lead towards this area or that area, and we got guys that can fill in those roles.
I know games flow in certain situations. When you look back on a game like that one, your running backs at, I think it was 7.4 yards a carry. You're doing your offensive review. Do you go, hey, we got to get these guys more carries if they're averaging going like that in a game?
Well, you're always looking at it. Yeah, I mean, like if you're running the ball well, you're probably going to lean that way. But I still think you have to have balance. If you're not careful, you end up just turning around and handing it, and that's great if you're still making yards like that. But one of the reasons you continue to do that is because we're staying balanced and they're not being able to load the box and do the things like that. So there's some give and take into it, but obviously whatever the defense is giving you, you got to continue to keep building on that part.
Is that why you've emphasized, since you've been here, about having to defend the entire width of the field, that instead of shrinking it with running the ball, you spread them out with a couple passes, and that kind of softens up the defense in the middle?
Yeah, I mean, you know, our philosophy has always been we're going to spread you as wide as we can and test you as far as we can. And so when we make them play in space and have to defend the whole field, I think it allows us to do more things and provides areas where we can create explosives and have good throws, good runs, be ahead of the chains, and that's what's important about it.
What about Wake Forest defense stands out to you on tape?
I think they do a great job of running to the football. They're physical up front. They're hard to move up front. They got a couple of really big interior pieces that make it difficult. They're good with their hands. Their linebackers are playing downhill. They don't give up explosive plays. I think their biggest explosive play of the year came in the first game, kind of on a broken play. And they keep things in front of them. They do a good job of tackling. So they're making you stay patient. They're making you drive the length in the field. And they've done a really good job down in the red zone of keeping guys out and holding them to field goals. So we've got to do a great job in those areas.
Circling back on some availability notes, haven't seen Caleb Brown since the opening game.
Yeah, I mean, we're still working through the process with him. We'll see how all that plays itself out, but, you know, not going to go into the details of it.
You had a lot of true freshmen play on the defensive side of the ball, specifically Sheldon Robinson and Noah Chambers had really good games. What stood out to you about that?
You know, those guys are hungry. They've been biting at the bit to get in. When they got their opportunity to get in, they played very solid. Made some big plays and some opportunities for them to continue to grow. And so, you know, at one point the other night, I think we had 4 freshmen on the field at one point in a game together. And, you know, those guys, they're playing well and they're growing. And so we're going to need that. We're going to need that from a depth standpoint. And those guys have accepted the challenge and they're playing well.
What have you liked from your team aggression-wise?
I'm sorry?
What have you liked from your team aggression-wise?
Yeah, I think our guys are really playing relentlessly. They're flying to the football. They're playing with passion. They're playing with energy. Those are the things we keep talking about, and they're carrying that to the field. And so when you do that, that's contagious. And we've got to continue to keep doing that because that's who we are. That's what we're built on. And those guys have been relentless about it.